that's part of the DNA of Dubai, right? So Dubai is always for looking to build on what it's built. So every single year, and this is the beauty of what His Highness is always challenging us with, is today is a baseline to tomorrow, basically, and we're always looking for the what next. And D33 gives us a very clear vision of what we want to do up to 2033 on economic agenda, diversity, sectors of focus. How do we supplement and complement all of that with quality opportunities, solutions, platforms, infrastructure that's required for all of this to happen.
This episode of Encrypted is sponsored by TransFi. TransFi powers the world's payments, helping businesses and individuals access better ways to move money. Welcome to the Encrypted podcast, your gateway to the future of technology and innovation, right here in the heart of Dubai's dynamic tech universe. I'm your host, Maria Vovchok, and together with Dubai Blockchain Center, we are embarking on a journey that unravels the minds of tech visionaries through the digital frontiers that are shaping our world. Hello and welcome everyone to the Encrypted podcast. I'm your host Maria Vovchok, and today we're really happy to have here Nader Albastaki, Managing Director of the Dubai Future District Fund, an evergreen venture fund of funds and direct investment vehicles of the Emirate of Dubai. The fund is anchored by Dubai Future Foundation and the Dubai International Financial Center to invest in the future of finance and future economies to bolster economic development in Dubai, the UAE, and the broader region. Apart from that, Nader was a founding member of Keiretsu Forum's Dubai chapter, an angel investment platform. He was also a mentor at the Interlock Incubator, NYU Abu Dhabi, and Unilever's Young Entrepreneurs Awards for several cohorts, amongst other startup-focused programs. Prior, as an active chief of strategy at the Dubai Future Foundation, Nader was involved in over 20 initiatives and strategies that would drive social, technological, economic, and environmental impact to the Emirate of Dubai. An interesting fact about Nader is that he has lived in and traveled to 136 different countries. Nader, this is so interesting. What do you believe our audience should also know about you that I haven't mentioned yet?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be on your podcast.
Likewise.
You touch a soft spot in terms of who I am and what I like to do. I love to get immersed in cultures, get to learn about different ways of doing things and meeting new people. And obviously, you did allude to the fact that I have traveled quite extensively all over the world, and that is a big part of who I am and what we try to emulate. What Dubai stands for as well is an intersection between different parts of the world, a place where everyone can interact with one another, do business with one another, and really learn from one another. I use this example all the time where you sit at a lunch table and you look around, there are 10 people, 10 different stories of what Dubai is to them, how they got to Dubai and what part of the world they're from. And a part of that is an inspiration back to me in terms of exploring and learning more about those different parts of the world and those stories. So what I try to do with all of that is bring that back to the workplace and really learn from everyone all over the place.
So let's talk about your workplace, the Dubai Future District Fund. Can you please share with our audience the primary vision and goals?
Sure. At a very high level, we're here to make Dubai a startup capital of the world. And what that means, and the word startup, you seem to like the word as well, is really built around solution building, innovation, and creating opportunities for both consumers, businesses on one side, but then the innovators on the other side. And at a very high level, that means the solution that you're building is not just also for the local market, something that's scalable on a technology perspective, leveraging a platform like Dubai has in terms of its international platform, in terms of connectivity, international platform when it comes to hosting international events, to its platform when it comes to being part of the United Arab Emirates, which is pro-business, neutral, and always looking to expand on its neutrality when it comes to bilateral trade agreements, opportunities when it comes to bolstering opportunities to protect IP, to protect business from Dubai that's going outwards. It's a great place to try solutions out and then scale up from.
With this mission, can you tell that Dubai for you, and not only for you, but you're positioning Dubai as the city of opportunities?
It is. I mean, it has a great structure in place. In a world where everyone's looking inwards, looking at protecting economic opportunities, stifle international growth into their markets, Dubai is sitting there and saying, we're going to offer you a golden visa. We want you to move here. We want you to build. We want to enable you to do whatever you need to do. Do you need infrastructure? We'll give it to you. When it comes to internet speeds, we have one of the fastest internet speeds in the world. Why does that matter? If you're building a tech solution, you need to be able to do this and create for the world. The connectivity, whether it comes to internet scalability and ability to manage a team from here outwards, that speed matters in terms of your solution to your consumers, to your businesses, but at the same time, in order to manage a team that could potentially be global as well, having a centralized time zone with the right infrastructure in place, that's what Dubai offers. That connectivity of flying anywhere in the world almost instantaneously with the largest international airport in the world goes a long way in managing business, being there, and being a testing ground for opportunities as well. So the infrastructure on one side, the pro-business attitude that you get from the government, and just the ability to find talent where it's a market there to promote it all, is a beautiful place to start a business and then test and grow.
You mentioned in one of the interviews that technology for the sake of technology does nothing for nobody. Could you please elaborate on that?
Of course. Yeah, I've said that a couple of times in the past. And what I like to take a step back to is when you're solution building, when you're looking to commercialize what you're building, you can't have this view of, I'm just innovating. Because at the end of the day, the innovation in itself needs to have someone that can leverage it, needs to have someone that's benefiting from it. If there isn't anyone benefiting from it, no one's willing to pay for it, and there's no business case for it. So what I always try to start with is, don't build for the sake of building. Build with a problem in mind and constantly work towards solving that problem. Because there's a lot of times that when you look at startup founders, they come to you and all they're doing is they're saying, I've built this thing. Here's my beautiful solution. And they're fixated on the solution they've built, but not on the problem they're actually solving for the world. And that's the whole point of sort of that statement there is, it's all about the problem and constantly being fixated and driven by that problem. So that inspiration needs to be solving for something as opposed to building something you're just passionate about.
By the way, let's talk more about tech startups, especially those that are approaching you. Since the Dubai District Fund, Future Fund, is a fund of funds that invest into other VC funds and also directly into promising startups, as you mentioned, let's try to single out the major criteria for every company. Let's say either it's a VC fund or a startup company. They're coming to you, approaching you. Let's tell us about the criteria.
So I'll touch up on three different points there, I think, with your question. The first thing is the rigor, the due diligence process, all of that is like any other VC. It's rigorous, it goes through a very comprehensive system of making sure that it makes sense, the founders are right, the traction is there, that they're building towards a solution that has a problem to cater towards. Those are the givens of any VC, and I'll bore the audience if I really walked into that. But the other two parts of what we're building towards is really what does it add in terms of value to the wider Dubai ecosystem? Because at the end of the day, we're government backed. We're here with not just a returns hat on, but we're also thinking about what does this mean for the wider Dubai ecosystem? And there we take a lot of input on the Dubai economic vision and strategy, the D33 program. And the idea there is, how do we link strategically where Dubai wants to go economically and looking at that backwards towards, is this solution solving for a problem that Dubai is going to be facing with this trajectory that it has with the D33 agenda and the economic agenda at large. So the strategic element of how it plays into the Dubai ecosystem is very important. And the third part is it something that's groundbreaking, that we see on a global perspective, that we think should be built out of Dubai. So Dubai plays an amazing platform based on the infrastructure it has to be built here. That's very important for us. So that's on the direct investment side. On the fund of funds vehicle, what we're trying to achieve there is, we want to be there as a support mechanism for the VC ecosystem as a whole. Being a capital allocator to the what I call incumbents or the existing fund managers, new fund managers or emerging fund managers is an absolute necessity to make sure that we're supporting them in growing the sector. So we're standing side by side, going through the same problem statements, solving for grassroots bottlenecks together as one voice. The other side is, how do we complement it all? So we also have part of our fund of fund strategies to anchor global funds. But that in itself is meant to be complementary to the ecosystem. If we're missing on, let's say, sectoral expertise, the idea is that we anchor funds that bring that sectoral expertise to the marketplace. If we were trying to create bridges or corridor effects to different parts of the world, be it Southeast Asia, be it Europe, be it Africa, we'll invest in funds that create that bridging effect where they have a partner on the ground in Dubai, but then they have a partner on the ground, let's say, in Paris, in Singapore, in different parts of the world, where we're trying to create this bridging effect where not only us, but the ecosystem of funds that are on the ground here can leverage as well by having that fund more vested in the ecosystem here.
In this case, by the way, it sounds like the networking effect, when we're talking about like in Web3, the same is actually, we can feel the same as the vision of Dubai Future District Fund as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it goes hand in hand on both sides, right? So on one end, we're trying to create diversity of capital that the startups would want to take advantage of.
Yeah.
But then also, as that happens, you create sort of a flywheel effect of the more value-added capital that comes into the market, the more complex startups that come out of it, which then feeds quality and opportunity to more VC and more VC capital. And it's a cycle on one side. And on the other side, being a startup founder, this creates opportunities at the end of the day. So now you can have cap tables of not just purely, let's say, funds that are based out of the region, but then now you have opportunities to get capital from other parts of the world. And that's great as you're growing, right? So initially, you want to grow in the region. Then over time, you want to grow beyond the region. And having that diversity of capital and opportunities benefits both the funds, but then also the startups as well, where they collaborate all together.
TransFi powers global payments, driving economic prosperity through borderless finance. With 40 plus currencies and 200 plus payment methods, we offer compliant, efficient, and reliable financial services across major regions. Simplify global transactions with fast, affordable, and secure solutions, from stablecoin collections to seamless payouts. Experience the future of finance today with TransFi. Talking about when you mentioned about D33 economic agenda, at the beginning of this year, the Dubai economic agenda D33 was approved by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, aiming to double the size of the Dubai's economy in the next decade and consolidate its position among the top 3 global cities. For me, it was really impressive. How does the Dubai Future District Fund contribute to the goals outlined in D33 agenda? Can you please also share more details with us?
Well, one thing's for sure, it put a very high, steep expectation on us to be a part of that also.
Yeah.
We're on the line as well as everyone else. But that's part of the DNA of Dubai, right? So Dubai is always for looking to build on what it's built. So every single year, and this is the beauty of what His Highness is always challenging us with, is today is a baseline to tomorrow, basically, and we're always looking for the what next. And D33 gives us a very clear vision of what we want to do up to 2033. On economic agenda, diversity, sectors of focus, how do we supplement and complement all of that with quality opportunities, solutions, platforms, infrastructure that's required for all of this to happen. Trade on its own cannot double, triple if you don't have the right financial resources, the optimization and supply chains, and the list goes on, right? Automated vehicles, efficiencies in transportation, and that's where tech comes into play. It's how do we look at all of these opportunities and how do we bolster them with technology? So what we're constantly looking at is what are the key agenda items on D33, and looking backwards to my point earlier around alignment strategically to what are the solutions that are getting built that solve for those problems that might be a scaling problem that technology can solve for, or an optimization problem where it makes it more efficient, more profitable, and ultimately more profit means more reinvestment into growing those particular sectors or components within those sectors. So D33 is a clear guideline on where the government is heading or wants to head. What are the primary sectors that they're going to look to invest more and support more, and ultimately that's a clear trigger and indication for us where technology will play a part.
By the way, for me, one of the most interesting things was especially about the point as Dubai is emerging tech hub, especially when we talk about Web3 and AI tech. In this case, I wanted to focus here more on Dubai Future District Fund as direct investment vehicle into startups. Because you're not only helping with investments, you also mentioned one of the interviews that you help funds with operational perspective, strategic guidance, and with startups, you're also helping them with business development. So let's talk about that. How do you facilitate business development for startups and scale-ups within the DFDF portfolio?
Sure. Happy to address. Maybe I'll break down your question into two parts.
Yes.
One is what makes it interesting on an AI Web3 perspective, and then what are we doing in order to support the wider ecosystem.
Yes. Let's focus specifically on AI Web3.
The AI Web3 part. So there's a number of things. So what we've done as a business is we've kind of over the period of time that I've joined the business in the past almost a year now, that time flies, where we created an ecosystem part of the business where we're looking to engage with all the major stakeholders in every sector to make sure that we're looking at what their problems are and what they're looking to solve for, and how we can bridge that with our portfolio, be it the startups, be it the funds, and their ultimate portfolio companies. So at the end of the day, the ecosystem benefits when it's getting to be well aware of what's going on an innovation perspective, what it means on an upside perspective when it comes to incorporating technology into their corporations, whether it's government operators, whether it's large corporates, how value gets added by bringing this technology in. So if I take a step back, the ecosystem part is a major bridge between what we have in terms of portfolio and what the wider market is looking to look for upsides on. What we've also developed is a value creation team.
Value creation team?
Yeah.
Sounds interesting.
Some people call it portfolio development. We like to call it value creation. And the idea there is looking at startups in particular. What are the key things that they're looking for when they're looking to grow, and what they're looking for when an institutional investor like ourselves or other funds come into the picture? Number one, they want support on a strategic and operational direction setting perspective. And we work heavily on that. We leverage mentors, we leverage sort of other stakeholders that are subject matter experts to come in and support our portfolio companies, be it on go-to-market strategies, be it on sales strategies, be it on recruitment strategies. So the idea is that we come in and we work on hand in hand in supporting them based on that moment in time and what needs to be done in order for them to go to the next level, based on their maturity, based on where they are in terms of traction, based on their journey overall. The second thing that comes up to mind is business development. Of course, business development has a couple of fronts there, depending on the type of business that it has. But ultimately, how do you connect the portfolio to the right people on the other side that are looking for solutions and are clear about the problems that they have that they're solving for? And a lot of this kind of starts from day one, where we're creating the case to invest in those portfolios. So we already have a hypothesis on who the people are. that are looking for a solution like that. But then we connect with that ecosystem team that has a very close sort of pulse on what those problem statements are. Fundraising is a key one. So not just the round that we're a part of, but then it's always looking about the what next. What is the next round? What do we want to achieve by that next round? What does the following round look like? What do we want to have achieved by then? And that's sort of a guideline to sort of helping them with the other components on the business development strategy, the overall strategic and operational direction setting, and the connections that we're building there. Then there's the people. How do we make sure that they have access to the right talent? Can we leverage any of the people within our ecosystem, our network, to connect them to, as they're growing their businesses, then they're looking for different types of expertise at different stages that they're looking to take advantage of. So there are a number of points where there are commonalities in terms of things that startups are looking for, depending on where they are in their journey, product supports, and the list goes on. And what we've done is we've formalized it under this umbrella of value creation. And value creation, we have an in-house team. We have a network of mentors that are SMEs. But then what we've also done more recently, which I think is a very beautiful thing, is we've connected with every other venture capital fund in Dubai and the UAE that is doing the same thing. So the reason I say that is, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're leveraging best practices, number one, as value creation is evolving constantly, and where is the funding coming from? Where are the business development opportunities? Where do we want to grow next in terms of go-to-markets? But then also alignment in terms of ourselves and yourselves might be invested in similar portfolio companies. How do we make sure we're not telling them different things? What makes sense? Let's make sure we're aligned on the messaging, because the worst thing you can do to any portfolio company is give them multiple directions. You want to have this cohesive direction, because at the end of the day, time is what matters. And building a startup, the most valuable thing you have is not the capital. It's not all the things that people tell you to do. It's what they tell you what not to do, basically. And how you save the time. And time is really that valuable item that you really want to take advantage of. And if you get multiple things that contradict each other, then that slows you down more than it speeds you up. So this creating a network of value creators is a beautiful thing that started earlier this year. It's a great initiative that a number of the funds now are running in different ways, and we're a part of that, basically. And that I wanted to touch on in terms of that ecosystem of connecting to government, to private sector, whether it's conglomerate, SMEs, to the value creation side. It's what makes it an interesting ecosystem. But most importantly, going back to the initial question you had about the two sectors you brought up, it's also the regulatory framework that we have here around the fact that we actually have a Minister of AI, which I mean is almost not heard of anywhere in the world. I don't know if there are any right now, but at the time it was the only one we had. The regulatory framework around VARA and digital assets, and how that creates a fundamental shift in how Web3 is seen in the market here, and how the regulations here are constantly working towards making it a clear indication of what can happen and what can't happen in terms of innovation and work on the ground here. Because there are a lot of places where they're either not looking at the regulations, and there's a lack of clarity of, if I wanted to start there, would I not be able to work there anymore? Can I operate there anymore? Here there is clarity. You have VARA, it has very clear indications of what sectors it licenses, regulates, and as a business, that goes a long way in terms of calling Dubai home, because you know the regulations are clear and there's business to be done on an operating perspective.
Encrypted is your exclusive ticket to the epicenter of technological innovations in the MENA region. Actually, I wanted to also touch base upon that you mentioned earlier, that you're also helping to, let's say, connect the Dubai's ecosystem with the international ones. And taking into account, again, what I really support regarding the regulations in Dubai, I've heard so many good reviews of companies that want to come here and they want to set up here. You've been recently, like you all the time, you're traveling all the time. And again, you've been recently at Viva Tech in Paris, at some other conferences. How other companies, specifically if we're talking about Web3, AI, how maybe they have heard about the regulations or haven't they? When you tell them more stories, what is happening here, what is their first reaction?
So I think there are two things. I think these platforms are being created by whether it's DET, whether it's Dubai Chambers, whether it's the Ministry of Economy or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as well. The strides they're taking in making sure that there's connectivity and diplomacy between different parts of the world and the UAE. Going there and educating people about the UAE and what that means through all these entities are quite rigorously involved in positioning Dubai, communicating about Dubai, brings about a lot of excitement. Viva Tech was a great one where we're in one of the generative AI hubs of the world in Paris. And what was beautiful about it is everyone is curious about Dubai, although they're in the largest hub for generative AI. They wanted to explore Dubai as a hub to move to.
Really?
In terms of excitement, it was in terms of location, first of all, they gave us the central node right next to LVMH, which goes a long way to show the largest corporate in France is right next to Dubai in terms of positioning and in the entire event. But the number of people stepping in and just asking the questions, the curiosity on a funding perspective, on a regulatory perspective, on ease of doing business, they had heard about Dubai. The excitement was there, the curiosity was there. But I think the layer beyond that is how much do they know? And that's where the curiosity is translates into questions. They know that it's open for business. It's a great place to live. The quality of life is very well known. The connectivity is very well known. But specifically, its attractivity around certain sectors, I think, can be bolstered a little bit. There are indications of Web3 and Dubai being sort of a global hub for it. You see people from all over the world moving in. So Web3, I think the value proposition is quite clear, with the regulatory bodies quite clear. On an AI perspective, I think it really depends on what the focus is. And I think that curiosity is there. The fact that we have a minister, we have initiatives around education, awareness building, and interactions with corporates opens up opportunities for AI startups. And those bridging effects that are being created through the ministries, through with international sort of corridor effects, takes it a long way, because at the end of the day, AI is as good as the volumes that it creates, right, on an operational efficiency perspective, but you also need to feed it with a lot of data, a lot of inputs as well. So you need to scale up operations really fast, but then at the same time, on the other side, it gives you the opportunity to create efficiencies that need to also scale up and grow quite fast. So, I mean, on one side, I think the opportunity creation part is very clear in terms of proposition. The inputs part and what's happening on that front, I think is being worked on quite heavily across the board. And I think the proposition is starting to develop around how pro-business Dubai is, how attractive it is for talent through the golden visa regime, amongst other things. So the talent attractivity, the capital availability, the centrality and the ability to manage business is a very great opportunity. I think it's bridging that with the business development opportunity that I think is the part that I think that we can work on a little bit.
Nader, also I would like to mention that previously you were an active chief of strategy at the Dubai Future Foundation. And talking about AI and Web3, you would organize the most important gatherings for Web3 and AI startup funders, such as Metaverse, AI assemblies. Recently, there has been AI retreat. With the rising number, as you mentioned, and it's really what is happening right now in the region, with the rising number of Web3 and AI companies in the region, can you please tell us what are the main tech trends that excite you the most from a long-term perspective? And what else? Not only AI and Web3. And if we're talking about AI and Web3, let's single out like some of the most interesting ones. Without maybe naming companies, or you may even name some, but let's talk about specific tech trends.
Sure. Maybe I'll touch on a couple of things. I like to break it down into sort of fundamentals, right? So when you look at AI specifically, there's the infrastructure layer, there's the networking layer, and then there are the applications. And the strides that you've seen and the innovation that you've seen on an infrastructure perspective has allowed for a lot of innovation to happen at the network level and then at the application level. A lot of people talk about certain Gen AI applications that are helping them derive a lot of efficiencies in whatever industry they're in. And that's constantly changing. There are different solutions that are coming out that are very specific to industries, some that are more generalist. But the exciting thing is the quality and availability of compute that allows for these application layers to come on top. And that fundamental part is exciting. These events that were taking place is a great bridge on the awareness building part, because at the end of the day, a lot of people bring up this question of, is AI going to replace us? My answer to that is AI is only going to replace the ones that don't use it. You will be replaced by someone who's going to use it ahead of you. So the whole point of these awareness building campaigns, whether it's events, whether it's assemblies, whether it's retreats, is to make sure that everyone's aware of what's happening and how they can incorporate it, because at the end of the day, if someone beats them to it, they will be behind them and will constantly have to invest that much more time, efforts, capital, resources to catch up. It helps a lot more because it's basically an exponential growth effect, right? If you implement it today, you're that much further ahead of your competition, because it's literally exponential in terms of the benefits that you have. So my point around what was the sort of effects of all of that, all of those events, was awareness building, making sure that everyone is on the same page in terms of the benefits, the opportunities, but also on the other side, what are the risks? Because at the end of the day, you need the government there, you need the large corporates there, thinking together on where the opportunities are, but then where consumer rights need to be protected at the end of the day. Opportunity cannot just be open-ended, because at the end of the day, you need to make sure the consumer trust is in place, they're protected in the right places, but at the same time not stifling from business opportunity and where that growth can take place. So I mean, all in all, I think the expectation and what we're trying to achieve there has really put Dubai on the forefront in terms of thought leadership in that space, where you're seeing markets that are jumping to regulations. They're stifling business, and maybe regulations are the right way to go about it, but it needs to be this balance of what makes sense for a consumer, but what makes sense also in terms of opportunity building. Because at the end of the day, you want to protect them, but you want to give them the opportunities to benefit from a better life, better solution that's optimized for them. And there's always a cost benefit to every solution that's out there that could be pro or negative to a consumer.
Nader, you've been also a startup entrepreneur before yourself as well. Which advice would you give to all of the startup founders that are looking to be a part of Dubai Future District Fund portfolio?
That's a good question. I think there's a couple of things that come to mind. And I've seen quite a lot of, maybe the first point that comes to mind from the startup ecosystem is, I mean, the first tech startup I was involved with was about 14 years ago. And top of our mind was, how do we build for MENA? And we've seen that narrative shifting quite extensively to people that we're talking to today are not solving for just MENA. They're solving for the wider region, the world. And they're leveraging the platform that Dubai gives them for the world. So the first thing I say is, how big is the problem you're solving for, and is it global? I think the size and scale of it is very important, because at the end of the day, it goes back to that previous point we talked about, is what is the problem we're solving for, not the solution that I have. And now on the other side, it's the drive. Is the person sitting in front of me today going to work 120%, go through the ups and downs that you go through as a startup founder, because there are ups and downs, more downs than there are ups, right? And is that person in front of you, do they have that thick skin, the rigor to go through those tough times, to power through, soldier through to the next day, to the next week, to the next month, and make sure that they're trying everything that they can to make it work, because they know they have a mission, and that mission is very clear. It's that problem that they're trying to solve for in any way possible. So that mission drive, that motivation is a very important part around the founders and how they motivate everyone around them. At the end of the day, they're the ones that attract the quality of people around them. They're the ones that will make it work. They're the ones that will knock on the door so that person on the other side, they'll finally sign a check in their favor. And all of that comes together with that energy and drive. And then ultimately, yes, the long tail of what you would do as a typical VC. Is this problem worthwhile? Do they have traction? What is the tech they're already using? And all those things around the solution itself. But ultimately, it really comes down to how big is the problem and is it the right team, especially in the early days.
That's 100%. So to summarize, it has to be the right team, drive, global vision, focus on the problem. And you mentioned what else? And the typical...
Great smile.
Okay, so don't forget to smile. Thank you so much, Nader. Right now, we are moving to the last part of our interview. Stay tuned with Encrypted. Rapid fire questions. So, Nader, I'll be asking you quick questions. You answer the first thing that comes to your mind, and we move on. Are you ready?
Understood.
Amazing. Name 5 qualities that you believe a real entrepreneur should have.
Well, number one, I think we alluded to this before, was motivation, drive, solving for the problem and fixated on the problem, and ultimately trying to make money.
Okay. What would you never do while building a company?
What would I never do? Not try to make it perfect day one. It's constantly learn, iterate, and listen.
The proudest moment in your career?
Proudest moment in my career? I don't have one.
So maybe it's ahead.
I had multiple, to be honest. I mean, graduations, hitting product market fit, joining DFDF. There are multiple ones.
My business philosophy is?
Learn, iterate, like I said earlier.
How often do you practice your keynote speech before going on a stage?
Maybe once or twice.
If you could time travel, which era would you visit and why?
I would go back to the development of a locomotive engine. I'm just curious about how that suddenly changed travel and transportation, which is a big chunk of what Dubai is today.
If there were a movie about your life, how would you call it?
The Wanderer.
Interesting. What's the best piece of advice you have ever received, business related?
Don't worry about failing.
Okay, the next big trend to follow?
Next big trend to follow. I mean, right now it's AI, so get on it.
What's your personal formula for success?
My personal formula for success, constantly listening, talking to people and getting their feedback on things.
And Dubai for you is associated with?
Openness. Yeah.
Amazing. Today we had Nader Albastaki, Managing Director of the Dubai Future District Fund. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for watching and see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
From the gleaming skyscrapers of Dubai to the innovation hubs of the Middle East and beyond, Encrypted brings you thought-provoking discussions, exclusive insights, and stories of innovation that will leave you inspired. This episode of Encrypted is sponsored by TransFi. TransFi powers the world's payments, helping businesses and individuals access better ways to move money.